What's the word? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Listen, I want to tell you a little secret. Yesterday, I was trying to record this video, and as I do before my videos, I enter a meditative state because I like to be here and present with you while I talk. But yesterday, I happened to enter a deep state of meditation, and because of that, I didn't upload the video, but I did realize something sort of important. A little secret I would like to tell you today. You see, if you are an avid meditator, if you have meditated for a long time, you likely understand the idea that thoughts and ideas are sort of an abstraction of reality. That is to say, when you are thinking about something, or even if you have the mental chatter and the words happening in your brain, those are simply abstractions of reality. They're not inherently reality. That is to say, when you are thinking of a certain situation in your head, that itself is not the actual situation. Okay? So if I am thinking that my life is a certain way, it may be completely different on the outside. I may look at it, and an average person or anyone can look at the inherent reality and say, this is how things are. But in that person's mind, they may think a different thing. Let's say someone has $1 billion business. Okay? They've made $1 billion. And everyone in the world could say, that person is successful. They could look at that person and say, that person is successful. But maybe that person on the inside, maybe their mind, their thoughts, their beliefs say the contrary. Maybe their mind says they are not. And you see how there can be this divide between what a person thinks and the ultimate reality. So what happens when we believe and think the things that are happening in our brain? What happens when we believe every single thought that occurs in our mind? I want to ask you before that, first of all, do you understand the power that those thoughts have? If you were to accept every single thought that you had as ultimately real, how much power do those thoughts have? Okay, process that. Now, two, I want you to think, what thoughts do I believe about myself, about my reality, about my world? And how often do we see reality differently because we believe a certain idea or a thought? Now, I want you to take it a step further. When you hear these thoughts in your head, who is thinking them? You see, this is a great question that many masters, Zen masters, Buddhist monks, whatever, they will give you this proposition, this inquiry to discover as you meditate. And you ask, not with your mind, not with thoughts or ideas, who is thinking these thoughts? But rather, you're observing the thoughts as they come through, seeing as they flow through, and as quickly as they arise, they go away. And you realize the question of who is thinking these thoughts is a very difficult question to answer, because it seems that the thoughts are not necessarily derived from any one entity, thing, or being, but rather they're sort of like the water in a river flowing down the stream. And as one section of water passes, it is followed by another, but the stream continues. So, when you ask this question in your meditation, who is thinking these thoughts. If you find that the origin of these thoughts is not from you, what does that make you? If you are the one who is aware of the thoughts, if you are listening, if you are watching the thoughts, observing them, but you are not responsible for them, what does that make you? You see, many people, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe many people take many of their thoughts as 100% true. Because when the mind says, I am this, I am that, I am whatever it may be, when you are the one watching and observing something saying, I am this, there is something that immediately wants to associate with that I am this, just from innately hearing it. It's quite strange. Why do you accept that as truth? Why do you hear this voice, these thoughts, and assume when it says, I am this and I am hungry, let's say. Maybe you're not physically hungry, but maybe the mind says, I'm hungry. What is it within us that decides, that I believe, I am that? You see, when someone else says, I am hungry, do I immediately say, oh yes, I'm that, when I hear them say those words? No. But why, when it comes from an internal aspect, why does it come from the mind that we assume that it is us? Is it because we can't see where it comes from? Is it because we can't touch where it comes from? Is it comes from an internal world and not an external world? Question this in this moment. And ask yourself, why do I believe these thoughts? And I believe that this comes down to a level of discernment. And this discernment is something that can be practiced through meditation, by observing your reality, by observing your thoughts. You shouldn't allow yourself to become detached to what the mind is saying and all these thoughts and beliefs. And you just see them and realize that it was almost an unconscious choice, I suppose, to believe that everything that the mind says is true. But even if you think about it in a logical sense, is it ridiculous to think that the mind always is true? I mean, after all, the mind is fallible. It's imperfect. But there is something beyond this. Clearly, if we are able to watch the mind, then inherently there is something beyond it. Because even we, in our ultimate nature, are beyond it. But I would like to ground this conversation back into a more practical sense. And I'd like to ask you, how does thought govern your reality? How do the ideas and the things you hear and hear, how are you attached to them? How much do you believe? And how much is actually real? You see, I'd like you to come back to that example I gave of the man who has achieved a great feat of business, but maybe doesn't believe he has. How many people believe that they are failures when in reality they are successful? How many people are believing these things just because the mind says it? You see, the mind can be trained. Think about when you hear a catchy song and later it gets programmed into your mind and the mind repeats it. The mind can be trained. Clearly, we see this in schooling. After all, think about all the things that you have learned in your childhood. So, the easy way is to change what you think, change what you believe. But the stronger way is to learn how to detach from the mind. Now, both are very powerful and useful, and I recommend you use both. But more than anything, I recommend learning how to detach from the mind because it serves a greater purpose other than detaching from the idea and from the notion that you are the thinker. But as well, it allows you more easily to observe because to observe the mind is inherently a meditative action. And when you disassociate yourself from the thoughts of the mind, you are able to see them for what they truly are. And you are able to dissolve your belief in any limiting belief. You're able to see it as something that is not an inherent truth. And by doing this, you lower any standards and beliefs that you may previously have had about yourself, about your abilities, about the world. Now, I've done this before, maybe not consciously, but at various times, I have done a lot of meditation before manifesting something. And I realized a lot of that was because I was alchemizing. Rather, no, I was detaching from the mindset that I had before because that mindset would have not served me. And so letting go of those beliefs and ultimately seeing them as not true and believing and knowing that they were not true was part of an energetic shift, a vibrational shift within me that allowed me to enter those different realities. It allowed me to bring certain things into my life. Even if the old me would have said that they wouldn't be possible. And ask yourself, what do you believe is possible for yourself? Think about it. How do you limit yourself? This is a very great thing, a great power. But is this